Good afternoon. Happy Friday. It's the Friday. This weekend is coming up and it is coming fast. Welcome to our Prove It platform discussion. I'm going to introduce Miss Larissa Wells, who is going to bring on our guests, and we are going to get rocking and rolling because we have a great conversation today. You ready, Miss Wells?
I am ready. I'm ready. Hello, everyone. It is good to be seen. I can't see you, but for the past couple of weeks, few weeks actually, many of you have been on board with the Prove It campaign and us discussing African Americans and African Americans and EVs, electric vehicles, and so today we're pretty much on the last end of our discussion on this segment. But today, what we're going to talk about is based on our last meeting that we had, or our last online webinar, we decided we're going to do advocacy and access to electric vehicles for African American people or lack thereof. And so we have a few people that are joining us today, some very esteemed people, very happy. We have Miss Agune. I love Miss Agune. I love her name, always have. We have Mr. Jay King. I believe that you all know him from quite a few platforms. So, and I don't want to be presumptuous, but Mr. King, you part of Culture Club, yes?
Club Nouveau.
Club Nouveau. I'm sorry. Club Nouveau. Culture Club. I'm sorry. That was Boy George. Whole different people. Whole different people. I'm sorry. So this Culture Club. I mean, Club Nouveau. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to get this conversation started because we don't have long to go. And again, Mr. King, I apologize for that faux pas. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and let's take it away, Ms. Agune.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming here. As you may know, I am ET Communities Office and Program Manager. Again, I would like to reiterate our thanks for joining us on this 4-part webinar series, and I'm ready to close it out and give you guys the knowledge you need to be part of this movement. Mr. King?
Yes. I guess that's my introduction. Well, I'm here to just speak on whatever the subject is. Interesting thing about electric vehicles is that we're involved in electric vehicles from the standpoint of buying stocks. So I have stocks in a number of different electric vehicle companies. Also, I work with Simeon Gant over at Green Tech because they deal with the hydrogen vehicles. And just here to have a great conversation and to show how many different ways we can be involved in the green energy space, electric vehicles, the charging centers that are going to be placed around the state by 2035. I believe they say that we're going to be all electric vehicles here in the state of California. So, Selena, I thank you for having this platform, having this conversation, because these are conversations that we don't talk about until after they're past us. So we're in front of it, and hopefully we'll inspire some people to get involved.
That's awesome. So we've been having some really good conversation. I think one of the things that we found in this space, and Larissa is also being an urban planner, she's been able to really lay a foundation of, how we got here, how the cities have been mapped out. You can correct me if I'm saying it wrong, feel free. But how the cities are mapped out and how certain cities are up here and then the urban cities are down here, and how that's all by design. And so we've just been having these conversations, and what I have kind of taken away is that the people that live in the areas where there is high pollution and there is a lot of environmental problems that look like us. And so I've been pondering the question, why are we not involved in the discussions? And why are we, when we try to find people to come on the show that are in this space, I think we had 6 on our first EV forum. And I don't want to say there's only 6 people in this space, but we are not in this space. Why do you think that it's so hard for us to break into this arena and advocate and just to be able to advocate for ourselves?
You're asking me?
Yeah. Well, I'm opening it up to the group, but
Okay.
you
Well,
can go first.
first of all, I think we have to start involving ourselves as a community. Our leadership, if we're gonna call ourselves leadership, then we have to be leadership across the board, and that means that some of the things that we're not versed in, we have to find the experts in that area. I tell people all the time, I'm a great chief because I'm a phenomenal Indian. So, um, chiefing means nothing if you don't know how to be an Indian. If you don't know how to go out and find other chiefs that are experts in other areas. Right now, I'm sitting with the city of Sacramento and other organizations to build below affordable housing, because affordable housing isn't going to be affordable to the people that live in our community, because 35.2% of the population in California is at or below the poverty level. So we have to build below affordable housing and make access easy for those folk that are already in the community to walk into ownership and wealth building, while at the same time building affordable housing, mid-level housing, and high-end housing in the same communities, so that our communities just um, aren't just low income or affordable income. We have to leverage it out. So to me, we have to have the conversation at different levels, um, and make sure that if we're going to be in these conversations, that we're going to make sure that the people that are already in those communities aren't being displaced because affordable housing is coming into the area, and affordable housing is too much for them. Single parents, um, mothers, whether mothers or fathers that are single parents, um, households with low incomes.
Mhm.
We should be working to make sure we talk about not gentrifying those communities, but then we gentrify them by, even with affordable housing, in a state that we know has systemically not been very kind to people of color, whether it's black, brown, yellow, or red.
I love that you brought that up because when we talk about affordable housing and access to affordable housing and below affordable housing, I mean, you can have that conversation on any area, right, Larissa?
Which part?
The access part, like where our community just does not have the access to those programs um, that are designed to make sure that we're able to participate.
Well, they're designed that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're just designed that way. It's written in the policy. However, what I am going to say is, in terms of the electric vehicles and the affordable housing, and yes, everything is totally intertwined and married to each other. Land usage, housing, public health, transportation, and public education. They're all key areas of policy that goes way back to Woodrow Wilson and bringing us up to today, and the urban renewal, which is gentrification, and just clearing out stuff in the freeways. So yes, we could talk about that, but I also think about, coming from an urban planning point of view, what they do in other countries. I'm going to say London for right now, and they will have a host of, and this ties into the electric vehicles, but they will have a host of, as a matter of fact, the John Stewart Company is doing that over there on Richards Boulevard, where there's mixed income housing. And so everyone can live within the same thing, and I love the way that they're doing it, because I hear some feedback in the background, not sure what it is, but what we, with this, I'm going to use this place, with this particular place, with the mixed use. So some people are coming in, the minimum I think is $20,000 a year. And then you have a middle income. And so then your rent is adjusted. But also what's happening is they're building charging stations in this particular complex. And what was happening with us as a unit is the same thing that's been happening: lack of information. That's key. It's written that people perish because of a lack of knowledge. And so therefore we're constantly left behind, because the way that the meetings are generated from these so-called agencies, they're in the middle of the day. We have a large group of people that are not technologically savvy. We have a huge digital divide. And so therefore, and they don't know how to maneuver through it. And so therefore, there's a lot of information that goes past them. Now, what we can do and what we should do is go back into the communities to the neighborhood groups, or to, generating some groups, or First Fridays, or whatever it is. There's a host of things that I've noticed in Sacramento for Black folks to attend, and we can bring those people into these same circles and educate them and say, well, wait a minute, this is how it's going to help as far as public health is concerned in your children. Like Goonie laughs every time I say this. You got to take them cars up off the blocks in front of your house and parking on the grass and whatnot, tearing everything up. Just saying. So those cars, we wonder if they're going to pass smog and whatnot. And there's a lot of EV and plug-in hybrid vehicles that are out there. But here's the problem. Problem is, I was trying to go for a Nissan Leaf. I'm like, that's most doable, right? Mm-hmm. But there are none available. But yet and still, the programs have paused in terms of coming to us to give us the information. So somebody help me out and make that make sense.
I want to piggyback off of what you were saying.
Can you give me 2 seconds? Because I want to introduce Miss Regina to this conversation. Regina Wilson is the executive director of the California Black Media, and my girl. Regina, I just want to catch you up. We're talking about access and access to information in our community, and why there's such a big
or lack thereof.
Yeah, that part. Go ahead. Let Agune finish her point, and then you can jump in.
Yeah, and so when we're discussing about access, I think we should reformulate the lack of access, because the information is there. It's just the way that they're distributing it. So it's best that they work with communities like ET Community, Prove It, Prior Consulting, BSBA, to get the message out to their specific audience. We don't want to see government entities in our communities telling us what we should do. Rather, connect with these leaders to get the message across. Before getting in this industry, this mandate, how would I have known about it? I'm fortunate enough to have my education, be surrounded by people who know what's going on about the pause of Clean Cars for All and all these things. But it's because of where I am. I just got lucky. But people, my neighbors, I know that they don't. I actually was talking to my neighbor who bought a new truck to haul his boat that he just bought. He was like, he didn't even believe that. He was like, what's going to pull my truck? Are there multiple options for me to get a truck that's heavy enough to pull the things I need to pull? Or how accessible is it? How does it benefit me and where I am? So that's, the information's out there. It's how they're distributing it is where it needs to be fixed. Like you're saying, Larissa, how these meetings are in the middle of the day. It's part of my job to join these meetings. So of course I can attend it. But what about someone who's working a full-time job? They don't have the resources to take a break and then attend to get the information that they need that will benefit them. We are how many years away? We're 10 to 15, which is will fly by. And we are African Americans. I know, Selena, you published the stats that we are the last race to adopt these electric vehicles. So how do we get a seat at the table? How do we get this information? And yeah, that's
So Regina, in what you do, so everybody isn't on the internet. Everybody isn't reading the paper. Everybody isn't listening to the radio, even though, Mr. King, I did enjoy your segment yesterday. But everybody is not.
So did I. I did. Yeah, too. Go ahead on. Go ahead on.
But everybody is not on one of or all of these platforms. So how do we help them understand that it can't just be one avenue?
So I think that, listening to your guys' conversation and knowing the work that I do with California Black Media, we have a very fractured, because I don't want to call it broken, it's a fractured communication infrastructure. And it's not just our community, it is all communities that really, that mass media, the digital internet, there's so many things are changing. Television is changing. People are, hey, I'm cutting the cord and I'm going to, the Roku, the stick, the Fire Stick, the whatever, Apple TV. And so what's happened is it's only the big guys are able to then work across platforms, right? Because you have investors that help you work into your podcast radio, your traditional terrestrial radio, your print, your digital. And they're able to work across even all the platforms. And so that is a challenge that I have found for California Black media. While we focus solely, well, what we focus on is Black owned media in tradition, just as it sits, but we, largely most of our partners are print publications that also have digital assets. And then obviously even, the Chambers radio station, KGLH, KBLA, there's another station, Rhythm of the Coast. There's oh goodness, God's One Radio down in San Diego. There's all these different platforms. And what I think we're working on is trying to figure out how to help reach the most folks as possible through through what they do. But I will tell you that I think that, most of this is really the who do EVs fall under? Is it fall under Cali PA, CARB, or whoever? I don't even know which.
I think it's CARB.
So maybe it falls under CARB. I mean, really, what needs to happen? And I think this is a conversation for the leaders on this call, for us to go to the public meetings and actually say, what are you doing in this particular year's budget, and how are you using it to create an advertising contract? Let me just go ahead and say, after we came off of the Secretary of State's SOS campaign, they put out, they wanted people to know about the election, so they put up $17 million. I was a part of one of the leadership that helped pull together a team to work across all the various media outlets. We bought 571 media companies during the time frame of the month of just October. California is a very expensive place to buy media in. And I have to say, doing such things, they're going to have to do the same thing if you want to be able to reach and talk to people. That's if you want to be serious about making sure that you're talking to people. But there has to be a contract that's dedicated and focused on making sure that people know that these things are coming up. And if there are rebates, if there are incentives to get people to buy, we won't know unless we're told. But they have to invest in the communication infrastructure for us to be able to get that message out. And that's through print, radio, all of the above, and our community-based organizations.
So I have a question for Mr. King.
I have a question. I have some statements too. Yeah.
Okay. What happens when you do the outreach and they know that what the outreach that you're doing is making a difference, and then the program gets canceled? What's our next recourse?
Well, that's the problem, is that the programs are made to be canceled. They're not, these things aren't ongoing. We have to, Regina is in a unique position. She's on both sides of the fence. So she can kind of tell you what's going to happen before it happens. And she's done that for me a few times. And so I'm able to be ahead of the game, if you will, to be prepared for it. We have to be better communicators from one piece to the next. It's Selena, it's the reason why when I started thinking about going after money from the city, I call you. Now, some people would look at us as competitors. I look at us as partners. There's 137,000 African-American small businesses in the state. Mm-hmm. We need 20 agencies like us to do all the work that we can do. So I think we have to make sure that we've got voices everywhere, that when there's one ending of a program, there's a beginning, there's something else that they're starting someplace else. There's always other programs happening. We just have to know how to jump from one lily pad to the next. The same way, for me, the same way the Metro chambers and the other chambers do. As a Black chamber, I have to make sure that I'm plugged into everybody, that I have eyes and ears everywhere. And to be honest with you, as a community, we have to stop thinking like the 1900s. We have to change our conversation. We have to change our strategies. If we continue with the same strategies, with the same conversations that we had in the 1900s, we're going to be further behind than everybody else, because nothing about us, about our strategy, about the way we see it, about the way we think about it has changed. And that's my opinion. And so people that think like I think, we we roll together. We're not a monolith. So everybody won't see it that way. As Black folk, I think we have to understand that there's more than one way to skin the cat. There are different people that are trying to do it different ways. And the idea is that when we meet, that we're meeting up in the same space because we're trying to get to the same place. So I personally use a lot of, I do a lot of coalitions. I do a lot of partnerships with other communities of color because there's always something going on in the state with different folk, and I just try to latch in and make sure that we're represented in some way.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. King. So listen, there were a couple of things as everyone was speaking that came to my mind, and I had to write them down because all of this pollution and environmental stuff that's going on around me got my brain fogged up. Thus the need for EVs. Listen, first of all, I attended it was in regards to redistricting, and redistricting is actually important as well in regards to this because they're trying to put everybody in one spot. Everybody from the South or whatnot, they're trying to put them over there on one side of the freeway, and over here you got other people. So what comes up to mind for me, like I talked about that Nissan Leaf, you mean to tell me there's not one in California, but all the money's gone? So somebody was getting the incentives. Just saying. That's one. Number two, under the EV Life, just giving some information. So under the EV Life, apparently, like you can get a EV Life climate change loan, or you used to, and it would make your payments lower. Okay, so they wrote back to me and said, we don't have any more funds. So I'm curious where the funds going, because they certainly did not come here, even though there was some that was earmarked that was supposed to come. So also, we can't keep putting everything just on us. They said the same thing about the vote in Virginia for the governor, and put everything on Black folks. And like we needed to stand up. Well, hold on. There are some other entities that also hold a responsibility. Now, I feel that what we can and should do is start showing up at those city council meetings, showing up at those county meetings, showing up, because what's happening is whenever I go, I don't see anybody. So that's in line with everyone else saying, I don't see anybody. And when one of us shows up, it kind of counts for like 100, but if we're not there, then they're assuming that we don't care, that it doesn't involve us. Also, the language, many times people would get turned off from the language. That is probably the biggest part. Now, what I've been taught is that whenever you're giving presentations, you put everything on an 8th grade level. That way everyone understands, high and low and in the middle. Everybody understands, okay? But what's happening is, now look here, I attended a meeting from, I don't know, some data place that working with the city or whatnot. And I'm listening to them and I'm like, I'm pretty educated, but I don't understand anything that you're saying to me. So therefore, I was not able to do anything, until I get more of an understanding. So I think that we also, when we're putting this information out, that we are, whoever our audience is, it needs to resonate that language. That language needs to happen. So that's what I'm saying.
You can speak to that, the RFP processes and how they put that out.
Yeah, I mean, but there's a couple of things that she's talking about that really, I think about some things that our organization and our media organizations own and have a responsibility to, but they've been gutted. And so the newspaper industry, I will tell you right now, I don't care what anybody says, everything starts with a journalist and a reporter. That is how you're getting the information, because some journalist is either combing through and looking at the policy that's written, that's super dense, the stuff that you're talking about that everybody's not going to read. And then they're putting it out on that 8th grade level and pushing it out to people. And my role right now, I mean, I feel it's like a uphill battle because we're trying to work with so many of our media outlets that have been starving, and we do our best that we can. And I want to take some ownership in the fact that well, I shouldn't take all the ownership, but I should take a little bit in the fact that I don't even know how many EV kind of stories that I've done this year alone. We have done hundreds of stories. I think Jay King, I mean, he knows, he gets our stories every week. We do at least 4 to 5 stories every week um, on some kind of policy issue and how it then ties back into the Black community. I will say I don't know that I've done enough on EV stuff, but I also don't know that I've been actually reached out to do that. Like, so I don't know that I don't have somebody who I can dedicate to just looking at EV stuff. Somebody would have to be pushing that information to me, a PR firm or whoever would be pushing. And then, you know, obviously still we would look at it and say, okay, is this relevant? Is this timely? Is this something that we would do? Matter of fact, the last one we did, I was supposed to do it and I didn't assign a writer. So I'm sorry, Selena.
I'll get
need
you
to but that's also because you're not a PR person, right? Yeah. So usually what a PR person is going to do is they're going to write up all the facts so we have it, and we're going to then go find the stories and see how it relates to the actual community from a statewide level or not. This year, I think we have a real opportunity. I mean, I've already heard, I think the governor in one of his press conferences say that this is going to be a major portion of the platform. I know in the Build Back Better plan, there's a lot of money that's going to be dedicated to charging stations and communities. And so that's going to be infrastructure that's going to be built out. And so what is that going to look like? I mean, I know we did something on whenever he kind of made the announcement with Mary Nichols last year that, hey, we're going to do away with all combustion engine cars. But, you know, in saying that and doing that, there is a responsibility that I feel that he will have in the legislature, but him in particular, because he's the one who made this set, you know, he's the one who said this is what we're doing. I believe he has a responsibility to ensure that if he looks at the data, his team, his staff is going to have to look at, wait a second, African Americans are, you know, not going to be able to keep up by this point. How do we make sure that we are doing everything possible? And that means incentives that are heavily marketed. Prop 209 prevents them from doing something special for us. But guess what? You can make sure that you over market to our community to make sure we're getting the message and that we know about the advantages of whatever options. And we have to look at those options based on what are the issues that are blocking African Americans from being able to gain access to EVs. And we already know some of it is just the fact that it's new technology. I don't know about y'all, but I have a 2007 Tahoe. I also have a Tesla, but I have a 2007 Tahoe. And guess what? It is paid off. And after $800 payments for 5 years that we were on it, I'm happy I don't have a payment. I don't want another payment. So there's going to have to be some real incentives to make me want to have myself ball and chain to another payment. So we have to think about what that is going to look like for people in our community. I mean, I know that gas prices, I was in LA not too long ago, and gas prices I saw were $6 almost. Those are things that are going to get us incentivized, but we might just go to, you know,
so
Camry.
Yeah, I want to like jump off that. Like the government right now, I feel, is looking at it as like an equal opportunity and equal, but we need to look at it as like equity. We need to pour in more to these communities that we're at 3%. Selena was holding up the 3. The Black community, we are at 3% adoption rate. 3%. I think that there's more homeless people there's more homeless people like in percentage wise than there are EVs adoption rate. So how are we going to invest equitably, not equally, equitably into these communities? I'm sorry, there's communities that have a very high adoption rate of EVs. Why do they have the same opportunities as people in these disadvantaged and they're calling disadvantage or priority? If we're priority, why is a
priority not treated in that way, right?
Yeah.
And I agree with you 100%. But once again, they have to do the work to make sure that they are talking to us. You have to say, if you're going to say this is where we're going, you have to put your money where your mouth is, and you have to do the programs, and you do it like anything else. You do it like you do rent relief. You do it like you do the California Relief Grant. Whenever you wanted to reach those businesses, you poured money into it, and you went through an RFP process, and you had people who specialize in buying media and reaching communities. You pour money into that so that you can actually reach and meet your goals.
And I want to touch on, like you saying, putting your money where your mouth is. That's exactly what's the problem. These bigger agencies want to come on platforms like ours and talk to us for free, access our community for free, but
Not gonna happen.
they're not gonna, they're not doing
It
anything.
can't happen.
Yeah.
It
Actually,
can't
when they got
happen because
funding to do it. You're on mute, Larissa. I see you. I see you. Like, wait.
I was just gonna say we got about 1 minute left.
oh,
Any
yeah.
final
Okay,
thoughts?
yeah.
Final thoughts.
look, I'm just saying, show us the money. Show
Yeah.
us the money. You already know
The
the formula.
resources, the
You
investment,
already know the people at DGS. Go ahead, this legislative cycle and the next and next and next. Go ahead, if the governor is listening, go ahead and put money there and put money behind it to ensure that the companies that know how to reach us get a bite at the apple
Yeah.
to reach us. And I believe that that's
Exactly.
Thank
And
you.
California.
Agune, last words?
Yeah, exactly. Especially California, we had a budget surplus, and so there's money dedicated to this transition and education outreach. So I encourage my peers and everyone in my community to do your research. There's resources out here. We'll continue to be a platform where you can reach out to us and to gain more information. You can always visit etcommunity.org, and we'll have resources up on our site as well for you to be a part of this transition, because if we don't get on board, what is your Selena saying? If you're not a seat at the table, you'll be something else on the menu.
Actually, thank you very much, Agune. We actually, let me just look. I'm gonna take it a little further. If we're not sitting there when they're developing that menu, we need to. We can have a seat at the table all we want to, and the menu's already done. Then we still lose out. So, bottom line is etcommunity.org. I want to thank Miss Regina Wilson. I want to thank Miss Agune, and I want to thank Mr. J. King, and most of all, Miss Selena Pryor for actually making this platform available for us. Hey, Tamar. Thank you, girl, for being here. Yeah.
California is the best state, though.
I think so.
Yeah.
I like California.
I'm saying, ain't nobody running me away. Not at all.
Should I stay or should I go now, Regina, to stay or not to stay?
We'll make sure that you're able to stay.
I think whenever there's I never thought that I would say that I would leave California, but I think that there's a retirement question that I think if I pose at a retirement time, I don't know what I will do, to be honest with you. But I grew up here. This is a state that I was born in. My kids were born here. So I love it. I don't think I would go anywhere at the moment, but it's got to be definitely much, much more friendly to our community so that we can actually thrive and not just
survive.
To survive. Yeah. I think we need we should be able to thrive here.
Yes, the Declaration of Independence applies to all. All right. And it starts with we the people. I'm gonna stop right there.
Hold on, because I know you're about to close it out.
I am.
Lisa Brown just posted a message. Alicia, call the NAACP 916-856-0155. Okay, 916-856-0155, and ask for Betty. Okay, Larissa, sorry.
Okay, no worries at all. Thank you very much for that. So yes, we are going to close out this segment, but there are more conversations to come because we have to keep having these conversations. And let me say something. Sound the alarm. It's time. Sound the alarm. Why are we quiet? Why are we quiet? We can't just say Black Lives Matter when it comes to police brutality and voting. Black Lives Matter in every piece of life. And we really deserve to have a good quality of life. So at the end of it, so we have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We do too. We do too. So we are not less than, we are equal to, but because of policies and because of history, they owe us some equity. And let the equity be in some of these incentives, okay? Ain't nobody got time to be dying from all this pollution. So anyways, thank y'all very much, okay, for coming and joining us. And please look out for more from BSBA, because Miss Selena Pryor be having it on HIT. And this is one of the only platforms that I know of, okay, that is dedicated specifically for us, to us, of us, and within us. Thank you, and have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thank you. Oh, did we leave?
Are we off?
Are we leave?
Because I